plateaued. I'm just saying, are we really saying he had a great rookie year, but after that, it hasn't been?
Well, it's been more than 1 year. No, it's been more than 1 year.
He had a great 4 years.
Did he have a great 4 years? They
He did. They've been to
the playoff one time.
4,000 yards passing each of those years. He led the league in touchdowns for a couple of years.
Yeah, but here's the point.
I'm just saying, Jim, as we have talked before, coaching has a lot to do in the NFL. You had Staley as his head coach. You had Moore, who was with the Eagles now. I'm glad they got him. Was his offensive coordinator. I don't think.
Moore was only there 1 year.
Yeah, but that 1 year hurt. That's when he set back a little bit.
He got injured too. What was it? His hand, his finger?
Yeah. I mean that too. But I'm just saying. Now listen. I think I picked the Chargers to go to the Super Bowl this year. Terrible pick, but I still think that they're going to be really competitive. I think they give Kansas City a run for their money next year. I think that's how good they'll improve this year. So, I don't know. I just think that. We're blaming the player for the position he was put in and for the coaches that coached him. And I don't think that's right. That's all I'm saying.
But I think Harbaug's words have been revealing. He's talking about meeting Justin Herbert, saying he's starstruck. He's in awe of Justin Herbert. So the way he's talking, it seems like he's going to be
building confidence in him because he might be the quarterback that he's going forward with. And like I said, Jim Harbaugh is a good coach. And I think he's close to being a quarterback whisperer. I really do. I think he does well with quarterbacks because he played the position. He's had success at the position. He hadn't won a Super Bowl.
Didn't help John Elway evaluating quarterbacks. He kept drafting them like he knew them.
Jim is a coach's son, Jack Harbaugh, his dad.
John Elway is a coach's son with Jack Elway.
I agree. But he has a better feel for quarterbacks. I really do believe it. I'm not saying that John was a great player. And we all know that sometimes great players don't make great evaluators because they do it off of a lot of athletic ability. Jim took his athletic ability to the maximum to make it. He wasn't as talented as obviously John Elway.
Not even close. Good morning to Bill, the Packers fan. He'll be joining us at 9:00. Glad to have you watching the show ahead of time. That way you can find out, how Jack really reacts to when he's challenged like this. So, be ready for that.
One Super Bowl little trivia thing, which you don't realize, no team has won the Super Bowl 3 years in a row. But the year before the Super Bowl started, the Packers were the NFL champions, meaning had they started the Super Bowl 1 year earlier, the Packers would have won the first three instead of the first two. So I don't want to hear no team has won it 3 years in a row because in reality, the Packers unofficially did.
Okay. All right. So, Jack,
the problem you have is most of us are not old enough to remember that.
Jim has no respect for the old timers. But it's poetic justice because today's players don't respect Jim.
Wow.
He did.
Wow. Holy cow.
Wow.
They respect him as a person, as a human being, as a man. But if you told an offensive lineman they had to line up against Jim today, they'd say they'd keep him in check. They'd all say it.
They always say that.
Keep the old timers like Jim in check.
But I'm not worried about it because I know the truth, Jack.
Yes. CJ says, look at this. Anyway, Keith did pick Kansas City to win. And as I said before, that is the big pick. Everybody's picking KC, laying a lot of money on KC. But as we go over the picks, I give you examples of how that will work against them. So we'll get to that as we continue going. So, Jim, you're the one here with the Super Bowl experience and the knowledge and what goes in the locker room.
See those two trophies behind me, Jack?
I see them.
One more than the Jets.
Yes, one more, and two less than the Giants. But anyway,
and two more than the Panthers.
No.
What? Those
not
two
less than the Giants.
I'm talking about.
The Jets won the most important Super Bowl game in history.
Nah, they got lucky. I mean, come on.
CJ's got my back.
Yes, he does. He does, and CJ is the painkiller, so I don't know what that means. So I mean, if I guess if
Medicated.
yeah, he's medicated. So anyway, so let's get back to Jim and his experience in the Super Bowl. So you went there what 3 times, if I'm not mistaken, Jim?
No,
right?
2
Right.
times.
Yeah, but
2
he
times.
played great
You
in
won
those
2.
games.
You won 2. You didn't go 3.
No, I was in Buffalo.
Okay, right. Yeah, they said get out of here. We had enough of you. You go.
No, because Jim beat up on the Bills in the 2 Super Bowls, so they, made it a point to get Jim on their side to do for
Jim
them what he did for the Cowboys.
But
Jim
actually,
wanted
it
more-
was because my
Right.
parents were already 45 minutes away by flight.
Yeah, and Jim wanted more. Jim wanted more money in the Cowboys. See you later.
Jim was greedy. Jim should have stayed with the Cowboys. Jim was greedy going for the dollars.
No, my folks were getting older, and it's hard as your parents get older, travel.
That's true.
And it's easy. It was easy for them to travel to Buffalo as opposed to going all the way across the country or the middle of the country to Dallas.
That was Jim being a good son.
Yeah.
Back to Jim in the locker room and Jim in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
So Jim, you're getting ready. You're finally there. You're in the locker room. You got characters in there with you. You've got Charles Haley. Was Hollywood Henderson with you at that time?
No.
Well, he was a character. And you got the great Emmitt Smith, and you got Troy Aikman, and you got another character there, your wide receiver. There.
Yeah.
Right. So what's the mood before?
Well, it's fascinating. I think, and you might disagree with me, it's more difficult to win a national championship than even the Super Bowl. And you ask why? Because there's so many variables in it. And a lot of these guys Jimmy brought in had been with him in Miami and won national championships. So they knew how to deal with the pressure. But there were also some people had never been to that far. So they didn't, obviously Troy Aikman was one, obviously Emmitt was one, and they didn't know. Charles Haley had been to Super Bowls and he had won. So he knew what it took. And you'd hear what he said about how to practice, how to prepare yourself, what's the most important thing to prepare yourself to win the Super Bowl, because you don't want to go there to lose. You want to go there to win. And he gave directions to that. You can say what you want about Charles. Charles really upped everybody's intensity that week because it's like he said, you only get one shot at it. Fortunately, we didn't get but more shots at it, but you never know what's going to happen. And that's the thing. You got to prepare yourself to play the best that you can in your abilities because you never know what's going to happen in a game.
So the practice and leading up to the Super Bowl, did you guys actually hit or there was no hitting? Yes. Wow.
We could hit that. We could hit. And I would say, because you remember they used to have 2 weeks for the Super Bowl. You get all your fun out, but when it was that first practice in the Super Bowl in California, it was intense, and it was very intense. We were hitting. It was the best practice we had the whole year, which is unusual for a team that's been through that grueling schedule for the season. But we practiced well. And we were in our minds because we had beat San Francisco in San Francisco when nobody gave us a chance.
People gave Cowboys a good chance to win that game. Don't make it that the Cowboys.
We were the youngest team in the NFL at that time.
Yeah.
They had Jerry Rice.
But it was the Cowboys were in an upswing because your team was 11-5 the year before when you lost in the playoffs to the Lions. So everyone knew the next year the Cowboys were going to make a serious run at the Super Bowl. It wasn't like you came out of nowhere. You're a great team. I mean, really, the way it gelled. And the teams you're on, the Cowboys' place in history is underrated. When you talk about some of the greatest teams in Super Bowl history, the teams that you're on should be mentioned more.
But CJ said the preparation. Well, where the difference is, because this is the last game of the season, the things that you'll see, and it'll happen in Las Vegas, when those F-16s fly over the stadium, you're looking like, oh, my God. And when you see Michael Jackson running through your locker room, stuff like that, Diana Ross, you're like, are you serious? I am here. Why?
But this is what I always wondered about to what Mac was saying. So you win the conference championship game to go to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl's 2 weeks away. You kind of have a little bit of a letdown, and then you got to reset. Correct me if I'm wrong. What do you do if you're the coach? You want to give the guys just a little downtime. When they get to Las Vegas, you maybe want to give them one night out, not to be in trouble. Let them shoot craps, do whatever, walk around the strip. And then they got to get down to business.
Yes, and that's
how exactly. I mean, some of the younger guys, especially, are going to want to run out every night in Vegas. They're going to think they could turn
in
it
LA
on.
Too. We were in LA, but you got to understand this, Jack. What are you there for? First of all, Jimmy have Bruce Mays was our director of football ops. By Friday of the first week, all the families were taken care of. All the situations that could bother you. Then the next week, when we went to LA, which is on Sunday before the game, we were focused on what we had. He said, hey, and he would tell them, go out, have a good time. But when we come back Wednesday, be ready to practice and be ready to play. Because he had been through it before.
Just interrupt you before we continue here. We have CJ and Sonia flirting on the air. I don't know what's going on. I mean,
Sonia's behaving.
CJ just said hi, and I said hi back.
No, he clapped and he had a heart and the whole 9 yards. We're talking.
Let me ask you this: the NFL, they have a schedule for public relations. They make teams go to the venue, to the city, a certain amount of time before. And I remember from Super Bowl I, the Chiefs and the Packers, your dad's guy, Vince Lombardi, Jim, he didn't want to go there early. He was arguing with Commissioner Pete Rozelle. He wanted his guys in Green Bay, and he wanted to go to L.A. where the game was being played at the last possible moment.
Some people are like that, but Jimmy knew that he had no choice but to do that. I mean, some of the questions they ask you at those news conferences are kind of bizarre. What kind of tree am I? I'm an oak tree. I mean, they ask you stuff like that. If you could be anything else, who would you be?
Between Jack and Jim, we're losing viewers right now as we're talking about trees.
We got 2 hours back. We got to
we will definitely. So Sonia,
I don't want you to run out of stuff. I'm doing this for you. Going on
Jack,
and on.
With you on the air, we never run out of stuff. That's for sure. So Sonia, I mean, you're listening to all this stuff about the locker room with how they're getting pumped up or how they're not getting pumped up. I mean, even Bill Parcells had to tone down the practices for the Super Bowl because they were actually going hard out, and he's worried about somebody getting hurt. So Sonia, when you're watching. When you're watching the football and the pregame and all this hype that's going around it, are you really listening to what the commentators and the broadcasters have to say, or do you think it's just nonsense going on over there?
So sometimes, for the most part, I am, because they're usually talking about key things, but when it kind of starts going sideways ad nauseum about like personal stuff, like for instance, they've been talking about Taylor Swift all weekend. And so I'm like, okay, I'll hear a little bit of it, and then I'm going on about my day doing other stuff because I've already heard it. Now, if you're talking about things that will affect the game, like Kadarius Toney, then I'm tuned in. I want to know, okay, because he's had some issues that he's basically saying that he's not injured, but there's, Andy Reid saying he's game time, and then you hear he's still injured, but he goes on social media and says he's not. I'm tuning into that because I want to know if Mr. Offsides is going to be playing today, because that could definitely affect from a mental perspective as well as his physical perspective.
Sonia, you're brilliant. If that name catches on, kudos to you, labeling Kadarius Toney Mr. Offsides. Man, if they didn't go to the Super Bowl, that name may have stuck.
You know what they do, honestly, and did you notice that both teams are about 25 miles away from Las Vegas, where they're staying?
Yes, I noticed.
And that preparation,
yes.
what they're doing is the hardest thing is you guys are talking, but the hardest thing is to relax because this is an intense time. You're the last game of the season. You're the last game. And you get so wound up, but you can't get wound up too far. So you have to make it as relaxing as possible until it's time to get ready. Because
that's why I was saying Patrick Mahomes didn't need the personal issue from his father that has kind of overshadowed, because you're, like you said, Jim, you're already, I can only imagine as a player, you're already an emotional roller coaster at this point. You got to be amped up. You're excited. You're probably to the point of tears, like, oh my God, I'm really here. And you're just proud. You're filled with so many different emotions that you don't need something negative out there to come in, especially for someone close to you, like a parent or, a close loved one.
Last year it was his brother. It was Jackson.
It's fair to just ask Patrick Mahomes that question initially, and then leave it alone after that. Leave it alone. What's he supposed to say? There's nothing he can say about it.
And Andy Reid had the same problem with his son. I think, wasn't it last year?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think they know how to compartmentalize that kind of stuff.
That's what I think, though, too. I think you have to. You have to.
Yeah, we'll deal with the personal stuff when we're done with the game.
Yeah, then you go strangle one of your family members.
Exactly.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes Sr. seems like a nice man, but he has a problem because it was reportedly the 6th time.
Yes.
And that's a problem. He needs to get help on the problem. He might be
I didn't know about 6.
Hearted guy who has a problem.
I know he served 40 days on the last conviction, and I know 3 times you're considered a felon for most states.
Wow, there's so legal.
Well, I know there was a former boxer who was a champion. Yeah. Okay, I won't tell the example. Matt, it was related to me, but I'll leave
let's talk about the difference between being experienced in the Super Bowl and not being experienced. Of course, the 49ers have been there 4 times and whatever the last 4 years.
Right. Not with the same team.
You mean you're talking about the Chiefs?
Chiefs. You're right, Jackson.
Oh, the Chiefs, and that helps you in the experience because you know what you're going into, and you know what you're going to be exposed to. You know the routine and how people are going to approach you about the Super Bowl. When you go in there the first time, you're in awe of it, and the first time we went, I'm in awe. I'm walking around there, I had a photo shoot with Heather Locklear, and because our PR guy came and said this lady wants to do a photo shoot. Like,
yes,
and it's Heather Locklear, and I'm just in awe. I mean, that's the things that happen to you.
Wow, I never knew.
About the Super Bowl, it's magical, guys. I remember Michael Strahan. He was in the Super Bowl before the Giants beat the Patriots, a Giant team that lost to the Baltimore Ravens. Right. And hardly anyone expected the Giants to get there. Michael Strahan, I remember saying Super Bowl week, I never thought of the Giants as being a Super Bowl team, meaning something was magical about just being there.
And I would agree, but to win it is even more magical.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you because you get things that go with it. You get to go to the White House. I met the President of the United States.
I just want to say congratulations to you, Jim. Like, I'm such a fan just to know that we're on this broadcast together with a Super Bowl legend like you. So congratulations.
Oh, stop making his head bigger than what it is already.
Yeah. I mean, listen, kudos to Jim, but come on.
Yeah, listen.
Let Jim elevate himself. You don't have to help him.
Those two will never know what the experience is like. They'll know what it's like on TV, but when you do it and you've been a part of that, I'll tell you one thing about Super Bowls, and when you win championships, the people that you've been through the wars with, they're my friends to this day. They are my friends, and
you're so right, Jim. The difference between winning and losing it.
They just don't know. They just don't know they're his friends. He just calls them up, and he's like, "Oh, it's Jim."
No, they call me. They check on me. I check on them. We have lunch. I mean, that's the part of this thing is when you win championships, This is the part of it is that you build a relationship for the rest of your life, because that's something you did as an individual, but you've done as a group. And
it's a brotherhood.
Enjoy this.
Definitely is.
Because you did this as a team.
And CJ says Jim is the best. Not only as a player and you know, doing his show and doing our show, charitable, you know, runs a $1 million business. I mean, Jim is busy constantly, and he's always doing great things for the community. So there you go, Jim. I give you your props, and don't ask me to do that again for a while, okay?
Yeah. But before Jim gets his 12 head, remind me, came in last place in his picks on this show this season.
Oh my God!
No, let's not overlook that.
I did.
It's your fault, Mac. You didn't give Jim the right instructions. Had you, Jim would have been number one.
Yeah, and I followed Jim for like 3 weeks, thinking he knew what he was doing, because it was my first time. I tanked.
Well, you have
that wasn't as big when I was playing the points and stuff. Now I know about it, and I learned my lesson.
He knows about him. And Sonia, there's no excuse now why you're doing so bad, because now
not now.
So you know, I mean, we don't even want to talk about your playoff records right now. So
playoffs have been tough this year. I haven't gotten comfortable with any of the games just about this postseason. But now we're down to the last one, and I'm not comfortable with this one. I'm going back and forth.
Jack, you look very comfortable right now. It looks like you have your feet up on a stool or something.
Right.
You know,
I got a new stool here that
we're not looking at your belt.
I'm trying to get comfortable.
I mean, we're looking at your belt, Jack. You know what I mean? We don't want to see that.
Yeah. I'm relaxed here. Well, you know, I'm going to change back to.
Jack is perfect.
I have my computer on. I'm just lying back on the chair. This is Florida living, Mac. You wouldn't understand that big.
I sure wouldn't. No gators for me, Jack. I'm fine up here with the mustard.
He's having gator bites for Super Bowl snacks, appetizers.
I watch the alligators.
Yes.
Oh my goodness! This show is getting off track.
It is very quickly too. I mean, you know, Bear fan, Bill, if you want to come in early, no problem.
I'm the only one here who's watched every single Super Bowl.
You know,
probably true, Jack.
CJ brings up a good point, and I think this is very possible. It won't end in a tie. It can't end in a tie, but I think it has a good shot of going in overtime. I think these teams.
And then Patrick throws an interception.
Yes.
And then Mahomes throws an interception, and the 49ers win.
Yes, that would be karma, right? That would be karma. What happened way back when Jimmy Garoppolo threw that interception?
Yep.
Interesting.
I think it could.
Do you think it's more likely that Mahomes throws an interception, which he has? He's got 4 interceptions, or
not in the postseason.
Well,
Mahomes is perfect in the postseason.
It's easy to forget what the Tampa Bay defense did to Patrick Mahomes when they beat him, 3 years ago or so. But even in that game, Mahomes came close to making some magical throws. He was like running for his life and came very close to executing certain plays. But the Chiefs were beaten soundly by the Tampa Bay defense. Could it happen again? Steve Wilkes, the 49er defensive coordinator, and his guys are really ticked off the way they let the Lions run against them. So I think early in the game, they're going to make a concerted effort to keep Pacheco in check. But that might open things up for the Chiefs to pass a lot more and be a lot more effective.
We shall see. I mean, there's going to be a lot of different scheming and scamming going on out there. You got some really good, not only head coaches, you got some really good defensive and offensive coordinators on both sides of the ball.
Spagnuolo against Steve Wilkes. Who do you give an edge?
You got to also realize is that the Chiefs, the enemy's helping them. Did you know that?
He did give him a speech.
He's not actively involved with them now. No, he's not actively involved.
Yeah, and they wanted him back for the playoffs. He
visited them before the playoffs, and Andy Reid probably likes him. Let him talk to the guys.
No, he helped them with some game planning too.
Yeah, because Washington blocked them from even getting to him, and then they released him, and so they have had offside conversations.
I know they were there talking. He was talking to him before the championship game. in the locker room. That I do know. I don't know what he
I'm
said.
going to give you a prediction. You're going to see what's going to happen next year. Bieniemy probably doesn't get a coordinator's job. We know he's not getting a head coach's job. Andy Reid brings him back because he likes him as an associate coach, something like that, to keep his name active and all. And that's about it.
So we have Bill the Packer fan in. How you doing today, Bill?
How you doing, guys? Thanks for having me.
Jack,
Good morning, Bill.
Jack is next to me, totally relaxed. We have Jim Jeffcoat, two-time Super Bowl champion. And right next to you is Sonia. She's our lady in sports. She does a great job for us. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
Oh, no problem. I mean, listen, we can't talk about Super Bowl. Holy cow, Jack, are you okay?
I'm readjusting, guys.
That's way too close. So, Bill, we can't talk about the Super Bowl without talking about the Green Bay Packers, maybe the greatest team in the history of football. They go way back. They played, them and the Bears. The Bears have only won one Super Bowl. You guys have won 5 or 6 of them anyway. So, so yeah, he loves it too. I know he loves it because they go at it, them and the Bears, all the time.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about some of the greatest teams that you guys had. Great coaches. I mean, you can go all the way back to Lambeau when they were winning championships back in the 20s. This is why it's named Lambeau Field, of course. And of course, then you get Lombardi, and you get and you have Bart Starr, and that great Jim Taylor was only second to Jim Brown during his years, and a lot of people don't know that. That's how great a running back Jim Taylor was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course Brett Favre, and then to Rodgers, and now Jordan Love, who looks like he might be able to continue this tradition, Bill.
Yeah, that puts a smile on my face for sure. I think I don't know. As far as my favorite Super Bowl is, I'd have to go back to Super Bowl I. I mean, that's where it all began. You know what I mean? Right? I mean, that's epic right there. But I mean, as far as Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers and stuff, those Super Bowls were good, but that was nothing like back in the day. Back in the day, you were actually able to hit people. It was different. It was a different sport back then to where it is nowadays, is what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's not like they don't count or nothing like that, but I mean, we got a hell of a history behind us, and I'm super excited to see Jordan Love come in and take that step this year in his first year as a starting quarterback. It's not his rookie year; he sat for 3 years, but still, this is his rookie year. You know what I mean? And for him to make the playoffs and get that experience, that was everything for me.
And with a lot of no-name receivers too. I mean, I know him because I follow football, but a lot of people didn't know how good a young receiving core you had. And Jordan Love used all of the receivers. He didn't have one favorite receiver like a lot of quarterbacks do.
Yeah, see, that's what I like about Jordan Love. Like with Aaron Rodgers, he had tunnel vision for Devontae Adams. You'd see receivers in the middle of the field wide open, but he'll throw in double coverage to Adams. I'm not saying Adams won't catch it, but it's just risky, when you have them easy plays right here. See, Jordan Love, he doesn't have that guy yet. So he's hitting anything wide open, wherever it is, he's taking that shot. And I think that's what's making him excel right now, that he doesn't have that actual number one.
Bill, do you think their offensive line was the big reason that they had success? They're pretty good.
Yeah, and at the end of the season, yes. I think they turned it around on Thanksgiving Day. Matt LaFleur started rotating his linemen, trying to get that right guy in that right spot. And I think he finally found it as the season was coming to an end. But it was already kind of too late. I wish he would have got that together earlier in the season. We might have went a little further. Because, remember the first Detroit game? Man, they killed us. You know what I mean? And it was right there on the line. That's where they beat us at.
Yeah, and losing Barry. And do you think now they took Halfley from Boston College? Do you think that'll make a big impact?
I do, because of one simple fact. I'm tired of Green Bay running a 3-4. We've been running that since Don Capers' era. We need more pressure on the quarterback. That's going to help, the guys downfield. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's how I always see us get beat.
But
people are always rushing 4, keeping Love, on his toes. That's what we got to do.
But
Bill,
the 3-4, you can bring pressure if you got people like Lawrence Taylor and Carl Banks on the outside. Right, exactly. So I think it's all in how you use the players that you have, and if you have the players to do this. If you don't have the players to run the 3-4, then of course you should be running the 4-3.
Right. I've seen it for over a decade, and it don't work for us for some reason. We just can't stop the run or nothing. There's just too many holes up front, and that's what we got to start clogging up. So I'm hoping Hafley does it. I mean, I don't know too much about him, but the research that I did when he was in Ohio State, he took that defense from like 50 something to like first. So I'm hoping something like that here.
Rick
I'm sure Packer fans are looking at the mock drafts now, I'm sure. And the Packers are projected to perhaps take a cornerback. And during all Aaron Rodgers' years there, one of his beefs, they never really gave him help. They always drafted on the defensive side of the ball.
Now, see, I don't agree with that. He always had help. And just because they're not coming in the
second round, not in the first round.
Right, but just because we don't really find, good receivers in the first, second round doesn't mean we were getting them help. I mean, what was Jordy Nelson, a third round pick? I mean, I could go on all day with, look at this season. Like, look at Dontavian Wicks. What was he, a 6th round, 7th round pick? And he turned out to be really good. And if you go with that argument, when he went to New York, why did he take all the no help with him? He took Cobb. He said he had no help. He took Cobb. He took Lazard. Why would you take those guys with you if they weren't helping? Right?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I meant first round selections at the top.
Right. Green Bay never did offense in the first round.
Yeah.
So let's welcome in the Philly sports guy Pags right next to the Packer fan. How you doing? How you doing, Pags?
Good morning, guys. Happy Super Bowl.
Well, I have a question for the Bills guy. Hi.
Bills.
I've been reading.
Wait.
Who's the Bills guy? Who's the Bills guy? Oh, I guess you mean Jim.
Packers guy.
His name is Bill.
His name is Bill. Sorry, I misspoke. I'm trying
you're good.
to get my question out before
He's
Jack
going to go
starts
into the
speaking.
Hall of Fame as a Bill if he ever gets him.
Oh my God!
Please let her get a question out. Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead, Sonia.
Thanks, guys. So, Bill, my question is, I know that the Packers have had some salary cap issues, but they've also been talking about working on the defense. What are your thoughts on that coming up into the draft?
Well, I heard that we're probably going to release Bakhtiari and Campbell, so that's going to free up about $31 million. I don't agree with the Campbell, but I do with the Bakhtiari. But I think they're going to do a lot of defensive picks in the draft. I mean, I think we have 5 in the first 90 picks or something like that. And I believe at least 4 of those are going to be defense for sure. If it not be pass rush to fill in, because like he said earlier, there's some players that on our team aren't meant for a 4, to run a 4-3. So they're going to have to pick and play and try to replace those players, and then we got to look at offensive linemen too, because we got to replace Bakhtiari. So
he didn't
and I was going to ask you about Aaron Jones also.
No,
he's probably going to be a New York Jet next season.
Yeah, Bakhtiari only played week 1, and he didn't allow one pressure or a sack either.
And he's got some knee issue, wasn't it his knee?
Yeah, he kept getting bleeding inside the knee, so they had to do what they call cleanup. Well, he went and seen another specialist, and they finally figured it out. And that's why when he did his last interview, he was crying because he believes they finally figured it out. So now he had to do that last surgery and heal up, and now he says he'll be ready. But I don't think he'll be in the Packers next year. It's going to cost us.
Speaking of injuries, Aaron Jones had a couple of injuries. Do you think he comes back stronger than ever next season?
Yeah, look how he finished the end of the season. Yeah. What I'm worried about is when he goes down, who do we have behind that? When we had A.J. Dillon, he wasn't performing like he used to. So I'm thinking somewhere in the draft somewhere we're going to get an explosive running back just to sit behind Jones. But I am hoping to bring back Dillon, though, hopefully.
What I love about having guests like this on, Sonia with the Carolina Panthers, of course, Jim with Dallas and Pags with the Eagles, they know everything about their team. They're not these fans that kind of just follow it in the papers. They're really into it. You can see their hearts into it. Their thoughts are into it. And that's why I love having these kinds of guests on here. And, of course, the Packers' history, no doubt, one of the greatest in the history of football. Let's get Pags in here a little bit and talk a little bit about the Eagles. So, Pags, Jason Kelsey's in the news again. And
really? Guess what? I mean, that's like par for course now.
So is he officially retiring? Is he officially retiring now? Because I heard he was, and he said he wasn't, and he said he was.
I don't think he is, but that's beside the point. Yeah. How much do you own of the Packers?
I own a share.
There you go.
One.
You can't be a real Packer fan and not own a share.
Okay. You
There
know,
you go.
I owned some land in Scotland too, like one of those like 1 square foot of Highlands, so that I can get like a dram of scotch.
Yeah, we're really interested in Scotland right now, Pags. Let's push on to the Eagles.
Come on, I can bust the balls of the Packers guy. I've never seen it before in my life. You know, hey, listen. Are you guys ready? Are you guys ready to go to Brazil? I think there's a really good opportunity that you guys are going to be playing us in Brazil.
I don't mind going overseas to play a game. I just don't like that it counts as a home game.
Well, it's not going to count as a home game for you. It would be an away game for you guys. It'd be a home game for us.
Oh, would it be a home game? Well, then I'm good with it.
All right.
Because
So there we go.
for us, it's a home game. It's one less game I get to go to. So.
Pags, Jason Kelsey's exploring possible broadcast career with ESPN and Fox. That I just read the other day. I think he'd make a great broadcaster. He's funny. He's got a great personality, great knowledge of the game. I mean, I could see him doing that.
Yeah. I mean, he's been setting himself up for something like that anyways. I mean, think about what the podcast has done, how much notoriety. Let's think about the beginning of this year or even 2 years ago. If he didn't do that podcast 2 years ago, his brother wouldn't have a date. His family would not be known across the world. You know, it's like, and his podcast wouldn't be the #1 show in the country. So, I mean, all three of those things have all happened because of Jason Kelsey.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, he's always looking out for his little brother anyway.
I could see Fox hiring him and having a 3-man booth with Tom Brady and him. Because both have a very good sense of humor and it would go back and forth. So I could see a 3-man booth working with Fox.
I think that would be the worst thing in the world, having him with Tom. I really do. I think that I don't think that banter would go. I think there would be some good stories, but I think that banter would not go as strong.
So Jason saw at an Aldi concert. It said he might have been drinking too much and screaming out Eagles during the concert. Aldi said that that he sounded like a drunk fan. So
Aldi?
I mean, he just
Aldi?
yes, ALDE.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I have no idea. No, I heard that there was a concert. She's actually well known, but that's her name's not Aldi.
All day, all night. I don't know. I'm not going. Anyway, Pack. So, well, Jim, this is what you should have done right after you got done playing. Instead of continue coaching, you should have run right in the booth. You would have been really hot then. That you just came up from playing with Buffalo, won a couple Super Bowls. That was your chance, man. You waited too long.
Nah, I like coaching.
Yeah, I hear you.
Some people are meant for the limelight, and then there's other people.
Well, Jim didn't have
He didn't wait too late. They could get him now.
Yes,
they could get him now.
Jack, if you can do it on podcasts, I could have done it.
Yes.
Exactly.
There you go. Help me out with this name. Jordan Mailata.
Mailata.
Thank you. Said that they look stupid versus the Blitz. I think they're talking about the Giant game there, Pax.
What are you talking about? They're talking about every game for the last 6 weeks. We looked dumb against the Blitz. They couldn't pick it up. They never did anything to change some of the things that they were doing to be able to go against the Blitz. They blitzed every play. They're not talking about the Giants game. They're talking about Tampa's game.
They're talking.
I tell you, the Giants suck. The Giants suck. They need to revamp their whole defense.
And we beat
you
the hell out
game. One game. Oh my God. And you know what? And you know what? This is why nobody watches this show, because nobody likes the Giants.
Listen.
I can't say nothing.
Literally sent them packing at halftime. That's how bad they beat the Eagles. Hurt your wide receiver. Hurt your quarterback.
You know what? Hold on 1 second. Let's talk about something.
The Eagles actually quit. That's the
No,
first time.
yeah,
I've
okay,
ever seen
that's what
the
they
Eagles
did.
score.
That's what they
They
did.
did.
Here we go.
They
Let's go back. Let's go back in time about how many times the Eagles and the Giants have played each other in the last 15 years and see how many games the Giants have won.
You're
Shall we?
correct.
Shall we
You're
go
correct.
back in time like that? Since you
You
want
are
to go talk
correct.
about yesterday and
All I know,
hold
listen,
your whole
you
life
don't
about
want to go
yesterday,
back.
let
You
me
don't
tell you,
want to go
the
back,
Eagles
Pat.
are so far
You
superior
don't
than the
want to
Giants
go
are.
back with your 2 little Super Bowls when we've won 4. You don't want to go back with me. Okay?
He gave us an extra one. I tell you, this is the problem with Giants fans. They don't know anything.
Well, I guess
He
I
gave
guess
us an extra Super Bowl. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I guess. Well,
we got
listen,
that extra ring now.
I feel charitable to you right now.
Hold on. The Eagles lead the Giants rivalry 94-89-2. And the Giants won like the first 38 games.
Yeah, well, that's how bad the Eagles organization is. I mean, even historically.
Yeah. Guess what? And guess what? The Eagles have a winning record against the Giants. They're like our little brother that we beat up all the time. Every once in a while, Rick Moranis is around.
Who do you dislike more, the Giants or the Cowboys? Who do you dislike more?
So I've always said, and I've always said that our season always begins once we play the Giants. I hate the Cowboys, but I hate the Giants the same. And our season always begins when we play the Giants. When you start our season with 3 weeks left in the season, it doesn't make sense to me. And even then, who won that game?
You guys cheated.
Who won that game? Who won that game? Who won it? How come I can't hear? How come you can't answer the question?
I don't know what
How come you can't answer the question?
What I said, what you say all the time, bap, 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 bap. That's all I hear from you right now.
Right.
All I hear from you. Bill, I'm sure you have to hear this guy.
Oh, I'm good. Can I ask the Eagles fan a question? No, I have a
I
question.
just want to ask Bill one question I'm really curious about.
Okay.
What's the feeling towards Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay right now? Is he obviously he's still iconic, but is there the same warm feeling for all the years he's been there? Are the Packer fans kind of putting a little distance between the fan base and Rodgers?
No, I wouldn't say that. Like when you go to the games last year, everyone's still wearing a Rodgers jersey. I mean, I'm still wearing mine. You know what I mean? There's still fan support for him because it wasn't like the Favre and Rodgers. Like Favre and Rodgers didn't get along where Rodgers and Jordan Love do. Right before Jordan Love's first playoff game, Rodgers texted him and said, "Don't do what I did in my first appearance and throw a pick." So I don't know if you guys seen it, but it came out just a couple of days ago. So they're still buddies. They're still texting each other. He's giving him advice, So I think it's still good for Rodgers for sure.
Who's calling the offensive plays now? Is it LaFleur?
I believe so. Yeah. Yep. And see, and I wanted to bring this up too. Like a lot of people thought Joe Barry was doing a really well job at the end of the season, but it just came out also last week that Matt LaFleur actually was setting up the defensive planning for the last few games.
Wow, interesting.
So that's why that was the turnaround in the last few games.
Does anybody want to comment on the Commanders right now with Aaron Duffy here? I guess he's a Commanders fan. Will the Commanders will the hires make them relevant again? Anybody want to take a shot at that?
You think they'll have? Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jim.
I think they'll have success, but how much success? Because they still got to get their roster corrected.
That's what I was going to say.
They need some. They got some issues on their roster. They still got to find who is their quarterback. They still got to find now. They traded both their defensive ends, and now they got to get them. And obviously. They know who their coordinators are going to be in offense and defense with Cliff and Joe Witt. So they got some.
But they better be sold on their quarterback pick in the second round, Drake May or Jaden Daniels, because if they're not completely sold on those two to pass up on Marvin Harrison Jr., who's going to be a sure thing. I mean, that could set. That could put the franchise in quicksand if they make a bad move there. So they better not foul up that pick.
And I think a couple of moments ago, I heard Bill say he wanted to ask Pags a question, but I don't think you guys heard it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him, do you think your defense quit on you when they put Matt Patricia in place? Because him and Slay had
I don't
issues
think that they quit.
Detroit. And right about that same
I don't think
when it just said
Yeah, I don't think that they quit. I think that the scheme. So when Desai was doing the defense, I think that he micromanaged every position, and it became a little too much for them. And they were still doing their jobs, but it was like, all right, you have to be in this spot if it's this play, this spot if it's this play, this spot if it's this play. When it became Patricia, he kind of kept the same defense and said, just be there. And like nobody knew what the hell they were doing, and it just fell apart. And then the linebacker play, the moment that we lost N'Kobe Dean, and N'Kobe Dean wasn't great, but he was serviceable. The moment that we lost them, we didn't have anybody knowing anything about what was going on in the linebacker position.
Yeah, it seemed like as soon as he got in place, your defense fell apart. I think that's what held you back for.
They quit, Bill. At some point, the Eagle team quit late in the season. The players became disillusioned. It's a painful thing for Pats to say, but they quit. They want
not painful. I told you what happens. I told you what happens.
Injuries all you want. Injuries can't be used as an excuse for other teams, but for your Eagles.
Yeah, I know. Hold on. It wasn't injuries. It wasn't injuries. I didn't say it was injuries. I told you that there was something that happened in that locker room that broke up that team. And you know what? And that's what's real. That's what's real. There was something that happened in that locker room and if you remember me asking you about it, Jim, how bad of a situation that could be in a locker room.
Yeah, but the beat reporter said that wasn't true.
That wasn't the case.
Guess what? I heard that I heard a lot more about it since then. A lot more about it. They got it resolved now. The problem's resolved. And I actually found out I was right. I actually found out I was right.
Well, I listen. AJ Brown was right with the reporter when we were talking about it, and he said that
we shouldn't broach that topic. Yeah.
Right. They got it resolved. They sat down. They got it resolved. They are back chummy again. They're back friends. Friends can figure it out. Good friends can figure it out, and that's what happened. They got it worked out. But
all right, so let's get our picks in here. Jack, I'll let you go first. Who do you got in the game today?
I went back and forth. I'm going to pick Kansas City 26-23. The kicking game might be a major issue in this game as well. I mean, the Chiefs are far superior. I mean, Moody has had a difficult time. He's been a bit erratic with the 49ers. I'd be concerned. And they'll figure it out. It's going to be a game where both teams are going to be grinding. It might be a last team standing. You know, it's going to be similar to the 49er games with the Pack, where they needed the last drive, you know, with the game on the line, and then after with the Lions. But I think the Chiefs nip this game at the end.
Jason's got KC also, so 30-28. Jim, who do you got?
I think that San Francisco is a superior team because you look at the weapons they have, McCaffrey. You also have Deebo Sanders. And you take one weapon away from them, they find a way to use another one, obviously Kittle. But Kansas City has Mahomes. Can he do that magic again? And can Kansas City's defense contain San Francisco? That's going to be the issue. They're talking about Spagnuolo. He won the assistant coach of the year. But can he – this is going to be a challenge. I'm going to go out on the limb and go with Kansas City, but I think San Francisco might be the more talented team.
Okay. Sonia, let's hear what you got.
I am not following Jim to pick Kansas City. I'm picking the 49ers. I got my McCaffrey jersey on right here when he was a Panther. And it's not going to be just because of that I feel like that the 49ers are going to pull this off. I think they're the more complete team. I think even though Brock is new to this, I feel like his roster is very complete as well as the defense. I know both sides have a solid defense, but I feel like if the 49ers, their defense can step up and basically keep Patrick isolated, and they can do double coverage on Kelsey. I mean, there's a plethora of people. Pacheco, they've got to keep him in check. I feel like that they can get it done. I'm thinking it's going to be 21-14 as the final score. Of course, Niners win.
Okay. Pags, what do you have?
Real quick, are people in Carolina right now? Is this like how the Detroit Rams? Is it similar to that right now? Is this
Yeah, it's
the
so
Carolina
funny.
49ers?
I've been asked that question a lot. I already know what you're talking about with McCaffrey. And also we got Steve Wilkes, that was the coach that everybody still thinks we should have had. All the fans do anyway. And then Sam Darnold, our former quarterback, is out there as a backup quarterback. So we're all rooting for him. Yes, it's exactly like that. I was explaining to the gentleman before the show started off air that literally every fan page is like they are rooting for McCaffrey, especially with his dad having played, the flashbacks of him being a child and watching his dad celebrate. It's the whole connection. And McCaffrey was a solid player for our team. We didn't want him to leave. He didn't want to leave, but he was traded. And so it's exactly like that.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to know that. I just for my own edification. I think these teams are both really good, and ultimately I think that the Chiefs offense isn't as good as the 49ers defense. However, I have to look at the record of one Kyle Shanahan in the Super Bowl. And for some reason or another, he seems to really squeeze when it gets close to crunch time. And I think that that's the problem. He's the problem. And ultimately, the Chiefs are going to win this game like 23-21.
All right. So Bill, get your pick in here. The Bears fan here, Mike, thinks the 49ers win is 31-28. What are your thoughts?
I'm not buying the 49ers at all. I watched them play the Packers, and we were able to stall them out the whole game. Then I watched the following week, Detroit do the same thing. I'm not buying the Niners. I don't think they have a team that could beat the good old Patrick Mahomes. As much as I hate it because I'm tired of seeing Taylor Swift every day, but I think it's going to be the Chiefs 21 and the Niners 14. I think the Chiefs are going to.
Let me ask you a question, Bill.
Sure.
Why are you sick of seeing Taylor Swift?
It drives me nuts because it's like when you bring politics in football. It's just you don't do that. This is a sport that we all come to watch to get away from everything on the outside. We don't.
But is she putting herself on?
No, she's not. It's the media channels that
exactly. She's made, like I said earlier in the show, she's made $331 million.
Oh yeah,
that number has gone way higher since. Yeah. It's close. It's close to $500 million now. And it was $331 million 4 weeks ago. It's $500 million now. So
this is not football, like you said with the Packers earlier on, and then with any, because now it's entertainment. This is entertainment, and that's why they keep changing the rules, because they want more scoring, they want more celebrities involved in it.
Yeah.
And I really believe that.
We didn't discuss potential Super Bowl MVPs. Sonia mentioned Sam Darnold a while ago. If someone was a bettor and they wanted to make a bold move, they picked Sam Darnold to be Super Bowl MVP. Imagine the odds if Purdy goes down early in the game. Sam Darnold's very capable of running that out.
And he could save the game. You're right.
I have a 1,000,000 to 1 bet. I have a 1,000,000 to 1 bet on this game.
Well, Jim lived it when he was a Cowboy player, played against the great Jim Kelly. Kelly gets hurt early in the game.
That's true.
Frank Reich comes in. It didn't work out for the Bills. 9 turnovers later, they lost.
Jack got jealous because we were all mentioning players that are in the Super Bowl, and of course, Sam Darnold played for the Jets. So this was his little thing to get his Jets involved in the.
I don't get it. Panther fans are rooting for former Panthers in the Super Bowl. Jet fans are going to just be bitter for former Jets, like Darnold does something.
Yes.
Well, Aaron Rodgers is rooting for the 49ers since he grew up loving that team, right?
Bill. Aaron Rodgers, had he not gotten hurt this year, know him as well as anyone, would it have made a major difference in the Jets season?
100%, yes. I've watched Rodgers year after year make no-name receivers, big-name receivers.
Bill, his last year, Bill, his last year, he didn't look that good. Let's be
He
honest.
was
I
hurt.
think, let me get to that. I think the last year that he played with the Packers before that season started, okay. Now remember, he says he don't get no help. Okay, now keep that in mind. That offseason before the season started, he was practicing with the rookie Jets receivers.
Yes.
Why weren't you practicing with the Green Bay receivers? Why? Because he knew he was on his way out. I don't think he was all in that season. I think he just played the play. You know, I think the final game he tried to hurry up and make that push for the playoff, you know, when Detroit shut us down. But I think before that, I think he was just playing the play. I don't think he was out there putting 100.
I think he was just out there because
He already knew where he was going. He already knew where he was going and what he was doing. It was just a matter of time at that point.
Go ahead, Sonia. Go ahead.
I think he just was out there showing out because Hard Knocks was out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I'll tell you the truth, I think Aaron Rodgers might be done. I don't think if he comes back, I don't think that the Jets go to the Super Bowl.
Kind of like Russell Wilson, huh?
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
It very well could be possible. I mean, remember, he came back from 2 broken collarbones, though,
Yeah,
also.
yeah. So we'll see.
I think he just had a bad batch of ayahuasca a couple years ago, and that's why he had that 3-day retreat that he saw in the darkness that the Packers were not the answer, and just decided to play out the string.
Stuff.
He is a
weird.
strange guy. Bill, we're going to let you go. Appreciate you stopping in, talking about the Packers. We love having you. Have a great day, Bill. Enjoy the game.
All right, sounds good, man.
Hi.
Take care.
So there you go. There you go. I got rid of Pags. Hold on.
Pags too?
That wasn't by accident either, to let you know. So anyway.
Yeah, because he doesn't want me to talk about the Eagles and the Giants record.
No, we don't want to talk about that right now during the Super Bowl. Neither team's in it. So anyway, so we got most of the picks in. To let you know, Byron Williams took the 49ers since the Green Bay Packer guy left. Rick Sherlock is back.
Rick's back now.
He had to be watching to know it. Anyway, and Linda took KC. So KC, everybody's taking KC for the most part. I'm surprised so many people are taking the 49ers in this show. And I'm going to take the 49ers too. And I'm going to tell you why.
Because you're bad at picking football games.
KC is the favorite. They have more experience. But let me tell you, there's a lot of teams that went up and
San Francisco is actually the favorite.
I know. I didn't say
1.5. Yeah.
2.5 points.
I said San Francisco is going to beat.
But here's something to think about. Pags brought up a good point.
Jim, would you let me get my pick out first? Let me get my pick out first.
We don't want to hear your pick.
Listen. A lot of young teams went and won the Super Bowl. Dallas Cowboys did it when Jim Jeffcoat was with them his first year. The Patriots did it against the greatest show on turf. They go out and they shocked the Rams. And the Giants did it against the Patriots. They were new to the Super Bowl. Patriots have been there for what, four years or so. It is possible. It depends on the coach. Pags doesn't like the coach. I think Shanahan is one of the best run offense coaching scheme coaches in the league, Pags. And I think that's how they beat him. McCaffrey's running, Samuel's running. You're even going to see Purdy running. They're going to be running to pick up them first downs and touchdowns. And don't tell me that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to stop McCaffrey. They're not going to stop him. They're going to keep giving him the ball, and they keep Patrick Mahomes off the field, and that's how they win in overtime.
Yeah, just like they did when in Atlanta, when they were ahead by so many points, he ran the ball because that's what he does. I think he starts to overthink his scheme, and that's what kills him. Every Super Bowl he's in, he does something and he overthinks his scheme, and that's his problem. So hopefully he's got assistant coaches that calm him down and solve those problems. There's no doubt in my mind that San Francisco could win this game, but it's the coaching that will cause them to lose if they do.
What teams? Some teams trend towards the Super Bowl. And some teams have been ready to win a Super Bowl for years. There's a big difference. Jim was on a team with the Cowboys that was trending towards the Super Bowl and won it the first chance they realistically could have. They won it that first year. But the Niners have been there the last few years and haven't quite gotten over the top. So you kind of like wonder, even though I wouldn't say their window's closing, it's a different situation.
I don't think when's the last time the Niners have been in the Super Bowl?
2 years ago.
2014.
The
16.
Niners.
LIV.
They
Oh.
lost to the Chiefs. They had a 2010 lead. Garoppolo missed a wide open receiver pass. Had he hit that pass, good chance the Niners beat the Chiefs. So they were right there. So I don't know what I blame it on the coaching. The Falcon game,
The Chiefs came back. The Chiefs came back from 10 points down to win that game.
I'm aware, but Garoppolo with the 10-point lead missed a wide open receiver in a big play. And that was like the momentum change. And then with like 8 minutes or so to go, Patrick Mahomes rallied the troops. I don't know. Do you put that on coaching? Mahomes waging a great comeback.
Listen, I just think this game is going to be so close, and I think 49ers can do it. Sheffel Chowd, hurry.
Chaffee.
Chaffee. You know this person, Pax?
Yes, he came from my side. I actually shared this out.
Guys, the Chiefs defense is
Thanks for
very
tuning in.
underrated. This is the best Chiefs defense in years and years. Very underrated. No one's talking about that.
I think everybody's been talking about that all year, Jack. They said the defense was winning the games for the Chiefs instead of the offense. So they've been talking about that since.
Well, no, the big story with the Chiefs has been the way the offense was struggling through the regular season. That was really the big talk as far as Kansas City. But their defense under Steve Spagnuolo is capable of really coming up big.
What I was going to mention is that in the last two Super Bowls that Shanahan's been in, they've been I think they've scored 0 points and given up 49 points in the fourth quarter. They've struggled in the fourth quarter for whatever reason.
Yep. Again, I mean, we can compare the past to the present, which we talk about that a lot, and I really don't think what happened 3 years ago matters today. Different teams, different coaches, different players. I don't think that really matters. In any sport, really. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say because the Yankees went to the 10 World Series in a row they're going to win this game. That doesn't make sense.
But is there a certain mystique that the Chiefs have that psychologically could be inside the Niner players' heads? The Patrick Mahomes, the Travis Kelce effect. The Chiefs, their recent tradition is a modern-day dynasty. Could that be inside their head? And also the guys who played in that game a few years ago, there's still some leftover guys from the Niners who played against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Could there be a tiny psychological factor?
I think the tiny psychological factor is in your head, Jack. I don't think the teams really care about Mahomes or whatever. That's another quarterback, and it's a guy they got to beat. We have Renee Washington joining us. And she's backstage right now. We're going to bring her in studio. Let me introduce her first for everybody out there. I've been following her. Linda's been following her on Facebook and that. Renee's retired 3-time Division I All-American, a Hall of Fame soccer player. She's in Philly sports. Pags may know her. She's a reporter for MSG, CBS, and ESPN, sports host for the Union and the Phillies. So now she can add Northeast Streaming Sports to the top of her list. I was like, yes. So anyway, let's bring in Renee and see how she's doing. Good morning, Renee. How you doing?
Good morning, Renee.
Good. Hello, everybody. I'd be a lot better if my team was still playing in the Super Bowl this year, like we were last year. But otherwise, I missed the memo. I should have worn my Eagles gear. But happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody.
A fumble away, Renee. A fumble away from winning that Super Bowl. That's how close it was. What a game. It was a great game.
Still too soon.
It really So Renee, I mean, you, of course, you're an Eagles fan, just like Pags is, so you guys should get along pretty well. In the case of head coach Sirianni, do you think it was a mistake to keep him on this year? I mean, they got all the coordinators, they redid the coaching staff. What are your thoughts of that?
Look, I mean, Nick Sirianni, for as frustrating as this season was, still was the first Eagles coach ever to make it to the playoffs in his first 3 seasons as head coach. The fact that he got them to the Super Bowl last year automatically, in my opinion, granted him an extra year because there would naturally be a regression this year unless they'd reached the Super Bowl. You know, that was the expectation. And if they didn't reach the Super Bowl, anything less than that was going to be seen as a failure. I think the frustrating part is to be at 10-1 and then see the slow spiral that we all continuously talked about was happening that nobody could seem to stop. That was definitely the frustrating part. And it came down to, in my opinion, if it was either Nick Sirianni or the coordinators, one of them had to go. And in this case, it was the coordinators. But I assure you, and I'm pretty sure based off of this past year, if the Eagles continue next year with the same up and down roller coaster season, Nick Sirianni's job is definitely going to be coming into play. But I think he's gotten an extra year or two simply for the fact that they reached the wild card round, the Super Bowl, obviously the playoffs this past year, and still exceeded many people's expectations in the last 2 years alone.
All right. Okay. Let me put it this way. The Eagle fans get a rap of being the worst fans in the league. I think it's overblown somewhat because I've watched other fans get in fights and do basically the same thing the Eagles do. What are your thoughts on that, Renee?
Well, as we're gearing up for 49ers Chiefs, some of the worst fans come out of the 49ers alone. Listen, the Eagles fans are not, the Philly sports fans in general are not the worst fans. The difference is Philly sports fans are very passionate. We're going to hold.
So, whoa. So it's passionate when you throw a snowball at a coach with a battery in it. That's passionate.
Listen, we're not letting a couple bad apples spoil the entire bunch here. We're not going to do that. There's been a couple incidents, batteries, and Santa Claus, and different things that have happened that have not been great. But that has happened in other organizations as well. I've seen in baseball, Braves fans throwing trash on the field. I've seen in other sports where fans are throwing stuff at people. I saw snowballs getting thrown in the Bills game, and that was not all friendly fire. In the Bills playoff game versus the Steelers. So listen,
did somebody get killed in a Miami game or a Miami Buffalo game? Somebody got killed.
They did. It's the difference that I noticed
and Raiders game.
Oh my!
With Philly sports fans, that stays in the media, and I'm a media member. I don't like to blame the media, but social media, news media, it circulates more. Whereas some of those other stories get swept under the rug. But I actually went through this exact conversation and found all these stories of similar incidents. Some were definitely dangerous, deadly, violent that we don't even talk about. So I think Philly fans just have a bad rep. It's just unfortunate, but it's passion. It's passion, and it's just the fact that Philly fans are always going to show up. Away games, whole games, you're going to hear them, you're going to see them, they're going to travel in groups. There's Philly sports bars all over the country for a reason. So it's a misunderstanding, guys.
And Renee, hello. I wanted to piggyback on that about what you say. Like now everyone has a camera on their phone. Everybody's recording everything. Everybody's Facebook Live and Instagram Live and all that stuff. So you're able to capture everything. However, I have heard that Philly fans are kind of ruthless, including spitting on people. And I have not heard that from other organizations. I've heard that, like,
So
I
wrong.
know someone
So wrong. No,
I've
not seen one video of anybody spitting on anybody else. I've not seen one video.
Wait a minute. My sister was at the game. I'm playing, and a Philly fan unfortunately spit on her.
That's what I'm saying. I know someone
at a Philly game, so don't
went to the
don't
game,
tell me that they didn't happen.
It's not from my team, but it's of a friend of mine, and they were spat on at the game in Philly. And additionally, when you guys won the Super Bowl, you tore up your own city.
We did not. I don't know what you're talking about. Everybody loves to say that. There was nothing that happened.
I saw videos.
You saw videos of what? What did you see in video?
Downtown looting, like tearing up stuff.
They were not. What are you talking about? It was so not Philly. They greased the poles that people were climbing the poles. That's what happened. No looting, no fires, no nothing. There were no arrests. There were no arrests.
Wait.
There you go. There's the bap.
We can't hear you all if you're talking over each other. I mean, it's funny and everything. We can't hear you. So Renee, you're the guest here right now. Let me hear your take on this.
So here's my thing, and this is why I don't just give. I think, like you're mentioning, there's incidents here and there, and first of all, I'm so sorry that happened to your sister. That's inexcusable.
Oh, they took.
I think there's
My brother
incidents.
took care of it.
Okay, I'm sure there's incidents here and there that are, like I said, it's one or two incidents that are unfortunately the whole fan base is now being seen as that. Because I even remember last year in the playoffs, I saw a group of honestly, it was like college kids that were flipping cars in Philly. That's not every Philly sports fan. I know a lot of Philly sports fans, and none of us are out doing any of this ridiculousness. We'll be in our jerseys. We'll be always openly cheering for Philly teams and against anybody else, but it's never that serious. There is a group, I will honestly say, of Philly sports fans. It's typically the young college kids age. I don't want to, separate them, but that's what I noticed, that might do some ridiculousness of like eating horse poop or flipping cars. It happens. It does happen, but it's not everyone. But then on the other side, the reason I brought up the 49ers, for example, is because I host a Phillies show, and I kid you not, for several weeks after the 49ers beat the Eagles, and honestly, as recently as like the last couple weeks, which understandably so, they're now in the Super Bowl, so they still feel a need to talk junk. 49ers fans were in our Phillies show talking junk. And not just you guys suck. It's a whole lot of stuff, and I'm like, this is a baseball
they're entitled.
show.
They're
this
entitled
has nothing
weenies.
to do with you guys. So I will say, like, yes, we have those isolated incidents of Philly sports fans, but pay attention to other sports fans, because it's not just here that it happens. You would never get an Eagles fan in, a Braves chat or in an Islanders chat, or like pick a sport. They're not going to be jumping into another. That part of it is extreme.
There's a Philly fan that is harassing a Giants fan on this show.
All the time. Well, that's because the Giants fan always is thinking that the Giants are better than the Eagles, and they stink out loud. They stink out loud.
They were.
Matt went to Philadelphia with his Giants jacket on to watch the Giants play the Eagles very peacefully, just to watch the game. You mean Mac wouldn't get harassed by any of the Eagle fans? He could just enjoy the game and walk around with his Giant jacket on.
And you're right, Renee. Renee, you're right, because like we could even speak about a couple of years ago. Well, I guess pre-pandemic, a 49ers fan came down here and stabbed a Falcons fan right after the game, right out front. Like the guy was severely injured. I don't even know if he lived or not. But so you're right, when you kind of group in everybody, and I know as a Panthers fan, I've seen people get in literally physical fights because number one, you're mad you're losing, but number two, everybody's just there to enjoy the game. So it's really not fair to loop everyone in. But then when you see consistent behavior amongst different numbers, and like we said, everything is like right there for you to see, it's kind of difficult. So I totally get that.
And the last thing I want to share on that, and Dalton, I don't want to just group out college kids. I think the difference is social media. You don't see typically the older generations on social media in general doing this stuff. It's more of like the college age doing it for the gram, doing it for TikTok type vibe. But yeah, so that's why I've been seeing more of those. But I will say it also has become now, since we have had this consistent conversation around Philly sports fans, specifically Eagles fans, that when you do have other teams, their fans also come in instigating. I've seen that as well. Again, not grouping it on everyone, but I remember being at like the Dolphins-Eagles game, for example, and a lot of Dolphins fans were kind of poking the bear. So it's not always just about Philly sports fans, but we do have that bad rep in general on the football street, so to speak, that other people are coming in expecting some hostility. And like I said, it's not always the case. Most of the tailgates are exciting. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. If you've ever tailgated with the Eagles or any Philly sports teams, it's a vibe. It's dancing, it's singing, it's chugging beers, it's having great food. It's awesome. But there is a small group, unfortunately, that for whatever reason keeps getting, consistent coverage and videos and clicks that is messing it up for the rest of us that actually enjoy covering the team, the ups and downs, the crying, the screaming, the excitement, all in between, the right way. So,
and Renee, I can't even speak anymore because our owner got poked so bad he threw a drink on a fan. So I really can't say anything. Whose owner is throwing drinks on people? Nobody.
Not a Philly.
So Renee, we talk about fans and the Philly fans. Now that they're going overseas and they're playing overseas and on a lot of nighttime games because they got a good team. there's cause to worry that maybe the Eagles are going to start outpricing their fans. And I saw something today where they say, some of the Eagle fans can't afford to go watch the Eagles anymore.
It's not just the Eagles. It's Philly sports. I mean, opening day for the Phillies used to be about $22, and I saw people were saying the lowest they can get into Citizens Bank Park is about $138 in a matter of just a couple of years. Philly sports are successful, despite the fact that none of the teams have actually won the championship. In the last few years alone, all Philly sports teams have been in the mix, playoff teams, championship contenders. So tickets, the yesterday's price is not today's price. And so tickets in general have definitely gone up. And without a doubt for the Eagles, it's still relatively decent. I know last year it fluctuated depending on the game, but you could get into the link for the average price. And then some games just happen to be a little bit more expensive. So, I mean, overall, listen, we know money talks and business is a big part of sports. And so that's why you see more Eagles games in prime time. Almost like the majority of their games this year were prime time games. You see more games are just ticket prices are higher, just more around it, because Philly sports fans are a group that will pay, that will show out, that'll react to everything, that'll be there, that'll follow everything, that'll take the clickbait, whatever it is. So yeah, the price is growing, but it's everywhere and around Philly sports, to be honest.
What I love about you,
and it's
Renee,
not just the home games; it's the away games too. We outprice because they know we travel, and they always gouge the prices up. I pay an average of about $400 a game.
Oh my!
That's on average, and I go to every game.
Yeah.
Well, Renee, great thing about having you on right now is that you're eloquent and you're making Pags be more eloquent at this time instead of screaming. So that's a good thing. And let me get your thoughts. I mean, I know from what I read, you worked for MSG, ESPN, and you're a reporter. Plus, we won't tell anybody. So, what is the favorite? The favorite media you work for? We won't say nothing. I promise.
Oh boy. I don't have a favorite. I love them all the same. Listen, it's like the great thing is, yeah, exactly. There's no favorite child here. The great thing is, I will say each one is a little bit different. So like I just did an ESPN college game yesterday for the Ivy League. So that's more sideline reporting. MSG and everything with the NWSL, that's up in New York. That's CBS Sports. That's more as an analyst on broadcasts. And then for PHLY Sports here in Philly, that's hosting shows. We have hour-long shows, daily shows that we do. It's more similar to, it's actually a lot of like this, of interacting with those in the chat, having more of a conversation. It is an hour every day, so we also have fun with it because there's plenty to talk about. So honestly, I don't have a favorite because each one just kind of gives me something different that I enjoy about being a reporter.
That's awesome. And your pick for today, who you going with, Renee?
Usher and SpongeBob for the win.
Yes, SpongeBob. Wow.
I'm wearing the colors of the person that I think is going to be the most exciting to watch, Usher and SpongeBob. Listen, honestly, I have no idea. And I find myself going back and forth. I don't know if I'm the only one in this, but I will stand on this hill by myself if I have to. I find myself going back and forth where every time I start to think it's going to be the 49ers, or I can't root for either team. So let's just throw that out there. I really am struggling with this game. This is the first time I remember watching the Super Bowl years ago, Denver, Seattle. I was in the hospital at the time after a sports injury. That's how dedicated I was to watching the Super Bowl. This year, you kind of got to twist my arm a little bit. But it's going to be a great game. It will be, just not for anybody that dislikes the Chiefs and the 49ers like myself and most Eagles fans. But I will say, I think it's going to be the Chiefs. I think we're going to get, just looking at the way the playoffs have gone so far, both teams have had some turnovers, some plays that have gone in their way, in their favor. The Packers could have gone on and extended the lead and been able to hold off the 49ers and upset them. The Chiefs, between the Dolphins injuries, the Bills just folding, the Ravens playing like we haven't seen all season and having an inability to run the ball and get stops on defense, they have shown their experience has helped them prevail. But I do think the Chiefs get that exact same type of response today. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco, going to have a big day. Nick Bosa is going to have his hands full, and the 49ers defense is going to have their hands full. And I think it's just going to be a big test for Brock Purdy. And I think quarterback-wise, it's going to be a difference that Brock Purdy is trying to show he is the face of the franchise for the future, whereas Patrick is that now. could be the difference for this alone. And then the run game and just the way the Chiefs offense has been able to adjust those small completions, getting yards after catch, moving the sticks, moving the chains. I do think it's going to be a chess match, but honestly, Andy Reid, I think, is going to lead the Chiefs to another Super Bowl.
Well, one thing I will say to that is that the Chiefs have a hard time stopping the run. San Francisco is going to pound the rock, and I wouldn't be surprised seeing McCaffrey get a couple touchdowns. I think Debo will be running these great run after the catch. They better be tackling. I'm with you. I think it's so close. I think it might even go to overtime this year. I think that's how close these two teams are. So,
Yeah, and I think the 49ers, in my opinion, are the better overall team. Yeah. But I said that last week for the Chiefs against the Ravens, and we see who's sitting at home right now. So, at this point of the season, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brock Purdy, they have so many pieces that their offense has a lot of targets, a lot of options. But for whatever reason, and call it for what you want, the Chiefs keep finding ways to win, and the Chiefs keep advancing. And I think today that's all the stars are aligned for the Chiefs, in my opinion, to win it, even though I've been saying I really think the 49ers are the better team.
Yeah, that's the same thing Jim said. Jim said he thinks they're more talented than KC. So anyway, guys, we're getting near the top of the hour. We got to get out of here and let the other show come up on our Roku channel. Again, thanks to everybody that showed up. Our, Sonia, Jim, Jack, Pags, Renee. Special thanks to you. Bill, the Packer fan, came in and told us a lot about the Packers. And great show today. Thanks for all the comments, the likes, the loves, and as always, folks, I hope the team you pick wins. Have a great Super Bowl Sunday.